Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next keynote in the Best Virtual Summit. For many years, everywhere in industry and society in general, we've seen a growing need for innovation on all levels. Many corporations have been investing a lot of time and effort in developing a healthy, forward-thinking corporate culture. The current crisis and the resulting move towards remote work logically affects this a lot, so there's once again a need to adapt. To talk about these issues, today we have with us Martin Gallardo from PricewaterhouseCoopers. With offices in 157 countries and more than 270,000 employees, they are among the leading professional service networks in the world. They help organizations and individuals create the value they're looking for by delivering quality in assurance, tax, and advisory services. Martin is leading the innovation and digital delivery practice for PricewaterhouseCoopers in Stavanger, Norway. He has previously designed and developed a digital hub for Accenture and worked as the in-house entrepreneur for vertical strategy, part of Bain Nordics. Martin has a YouTube channel as well on innovation and has published a book where he forecasts the effects of emerging technology in the book called The Future is Waiting. Before we start, I would like to recommend our viewers that they are all very welcome to post their questions for Martin in the comments on this stream in YouTube or Facebook. That said, I will give the floor to Martin to share with us his thoughts on design thinking, innovation, and agile. Martin, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sonia. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. I'm very glad that I had the chance to give back to BEST. I was part of BEST around 10 years ago. And basically all the skills that I have used in my work life, they have actually been some sort of or another being brought from BEST. I have learned a lot from BEST, and I'm really glad to contribute back. So when I got the chance, I thought this would be great, and it's a very relevant topic for these days, these crazy days. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about innovation, design thinking, and agile. A little bit on how to do it remote. At the end, it's a very short presentation, so I'm going to stay very high level, and then I'm going to show a couple of principles that I want you to remember, to take with you after this presentation. Then we will open for some questions. So we'll have around 10, 15 minutes for questions. If I finish a little bit earlier, then more time for your questions. So I'm going to talk about 4 things today. The first is about growth management. This is a concept that I have been working on for a few years, and it's how to explain growth and how to deliver growth to your clients or your teams or your company. The second is why Simon Sinek is wrong, or start with who. Of course, why is very important, but I like to tell people to start with who, to start with humans. And in that context, we're going to talk a little bit about what is design thinking and how it works to unlock innovation. The third is agile. I think if you have been in business, you have been hearing about agile a lot in the last years. And I'm going to tell a little bit about the principles of agile and how you can adopt a lightweight version of it for your team. And the last one is how do we move from a standard practice to actually remote practice. So the first one is growth management, and why the growth curve is one of the most important concepts you will ever learn. If you go to business school, they will give you hundreds of concepts that you should learn. But I think if you manage to understand this one, you will never be lost. I use this all the time with proposals with clients, executives, team leads, startups. I use this concept all the time. And it really works because it allows people to have some territory or some sort of journey where they are going to understand where they are, where they want to be, and what are the steps that they need to take. I will start with a quote, and the quote is, all failure is failure to adapt. All success is successful adaptation. That's from Max McKeown. He's author of the strategy book. And I think this quote is more relevant now than ever. So I think 2020, I mean, if you follow astrology, they say that 2020 is a year for reboot, death, and reinvention. And I believe a lot of companies, including maybe BEST, will take a time to pause and rethink what have we done so far and where do they want to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Therefore, how do we adapt? How do we adapt to this environment, and how do we shape our future? So a little bit of the background, we see actually that uh, why innovation is so critical these days, right? So a little bit of talk about data, right? So from the data, we see that the average company lifespan is going down since 1965, when it was 35 years. Now it's barely 10 years. So basically, companies are going faster than ever. And why? Well, there is many reasons, but the world is going faster than ever, and that's just how it is. If we look at the right hand side, we see also startups and technology is growing exponentially. This is the amount of unicorns being added year by year, and we see that it just accelerating. There are many reasons for this, but one of them is lower cost on technology, access to venture capital, and so on. There are many, many reasons. The consequence is that there is a battle for growth, and what I may call the era of hyper competition. We're going to see very high competition in every single niche we can imagine. So how do we handle this? How do we beat someone else in a hyper competitive market? So well, you need to master growth. And growth, I like to describe growth in several stages. So first one is discovery. You need to know what to do and who is your customer and why you're doing it. Once you have that, you need to develop. Then you need to scale that if it works. Then you will optimize it, sustain it, and eventually you will have to reinvent yourself. So this journey is basically, as I said, the concept that I use with clients all the time. And it's basically a way to start a conversation of where are you? Okay, let's first do a health check of your situation and take the journey from where you are. This is actually a proven process to increase the chances of delivering growth because it allows you to start in the right place and apply the right mindset and tools for each step. So I'm going to talk about three principles that I want you to remember with this curve. I mean, this curve, I can be talking about it for hours, but there are only three things that I want you to remember today. First is you need adaptive leadership. This is extremely important. For example, what type of captain do you need for a paper ship? You need a paper ship when you're prototyping. You need a paper ship when you actually don't know how big is going to be the playfield. Like, is it going to be a lagoon? Is it going to be the sink? Is it going to be the ocean, right? Maybe you don't know. You need to just build something and try. So in this type of circumstances, ones require a mindset like a kid. You need to actually be willing to explore a lot of things and, oh, this doesn't work. You break it, you create a new paper shape. And until it sort of something clicks. The next one is the team. You are going down, you know where you're going, and it's like a raft on rapids, right? So you're going downhill from a mountain, and you actually don't have a path or where the canoe should go. So you should all the time uh, go to one place to another, and it's actually a team. So it's a small team, and you need to all coordinate to avoid all the obstacles. Then you need to scale, so something that actually works. But then you actually have different parts of the boat. So if you're a captain, you cannot have the same mindset as the kid, or just maybe like a football captain. Then you actually have different sectors of your company, and you require to be able to execute with quality and have your eyes in many different places at the same time. What happens when you need to optimize and sustain? You are a captain of the navy. You not only have one boat, you have many boats, and they are all going full speed with a lot of risk a lot of things at stake. So you need to start thinking more, this is risky. Oh, I cannot go that direction. I need to pull them all together. So the type of leader you need at that moment is very different than what you need in other things. So the mindset that you require on every stage is very different. The type of people you require in every stage is very different. For example, if you have quality oriented people, they behave a little bit better on the second part of the curve. Well, more explorative, creative people, they tend to deliver better in the earlier stages. And that's just how it is. We need a little bit of everyone, but that's usually how it is. For the second principle, we actually have different tools that can accelerate each part of the journey. And today I'm going to talk about some of them. So in the discovery phase, strategy and design thinking together works like a charm to accelerate the discovery process. This is to go from 0 to, this may work. Then when we actually find something that may work, we actually want to do it as soon as possible and with the lowest cost. And for that, we use agile and we use low-code frameworks. Then if we need to scale a product or a service, then we tend to use DevOps, data platforms, growth hacking, and so on. Then if we are actually going to optimize, like in the Navy ship, then we need to start thinking like lean. I don't know if you heard about all these words, but job to do for you if you don't know after this call. And then you also need to start leveraging technology and automation. And then reinvention, you need to do everything again. Right. So these are some of different new ways of working and different tools that you could leverage to accelerate this journey. The third principle is you need to start thinking like a venture capitalist. Did you know that only 1 out of 250 startups scale? So it's actually a numbers game. So you really need to get very good in the discovery phase to come up with a lot of ideas and invest small portions of money and time in a lot of ideas until you find the ones that stick. Then you need to do it. Then you want to do the development as soon as you can with the lowest cost, launch, and see if that scales or not, right? So we know that many of them will not do it. So you are sort of losing these dots as you go up. Therefore, it's more important than ever to have discovery at the first place. This is why I really want to talk about design thinking and agile today, because I think this is a lot about volume. We need to do this a lot more than we do it with corporates, but also if you are an entrepreneur, even if you are on a corporation. So as I said, the discovery phase is more critical than ever, but maybe you never heard about design thinking. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what it is, design thinking. So design thinking is a mindset and a mental framework, and it's a holistic problem-solving iterative framework for problem solution. So basically, it allows you to find a problem, define a problem, ideate solutions, and find the best solution. So we start taking a look at the users and market technology. We understand, and we come up with, okay, let's say 100 problems. But we cannot solve 100 problems at the same time. We need to find the most painful problems, the biggest problems that are in this environment. Then we focus and we find the number one problem that we want to solve. Then we will generate ideas. How may we solve this problem? So let's come up with as many ideas as possible. May have up to 100 potential solutions for this problem. However, we cannot test all of them. So let's take 5, 10, or 20, and let's make some prototype and test with actual users. Because engineers, they make the mistake of being trained to jump directly into the woods and start building things before doing this process. And this process has really changed my mindset, not only in business, but my entire mindset in life. Because my education has been focused on at the very end of this day. However, these expand your mind to be able to do this diverse and convergence thinking all the time. It's very good for critical thinking, and it's very good for innovation. Some of the techniques that we are using on this is during workshops, and we come with users, we come with subject matter experts, architects, engineers, designers, and we come all together and we work through different exercises. I have put here some tools that you can find on my website, martinhacks.com. So some of these tools are basically templates that we use to put our brains together and align and come up with ideas, come up with different types of solutions or define problems, right? So there are tools for every stage. It's actually super intense, super collaborative way of working. I will come back a little bit of how it looks a little bit later on in the last part. So let's imagine you have done this process and you have come with some prototypes, and some of them actually were really good, and one of them is fantastic. So, okay, we're going to build this. So I would suggest you to take a look at Agile. So what is Agile? It's a mindset and a set of frameworks for development. And it allows high-performing teams delivering complex work in changing environments. The amazing thing with Agile is allows a team to deliver something when we don't know what we're going to deliver exactly. Uh, you may have some design and you have tested it with the customers, but then as you're building, you are learning new things. And perhaps you are going to change some of the things of the product or service as you build it based on the learnings with testing again with more users and creating the architecture. So I will suggest you to take a look at a framework of Agile called Scrum, where it's actually a 2 week, usually it's 2 weeks sprint, where a small team, 5 to 8 people, they are having a very clear mandate from a boss of what they need to do. This mandate is prioritized by value. Uh, they maintain a backlog of activities through through time, and they pick the most important things to do the next 2 weeks. Then they visualize this work and they are tracking it through a tool. They meet every day to see how they are doing. They also every 2 weeks they will show to the customer or they will test with the customer and with the stakeholders, and they will hold retrospective on, oh, what have we learned? How can we improve the way we work, and so on. So this is a very interesting framework for small teams to start learning, and there's plenty of information online about it. But I want you to remember again 3 principles of Agile. So the first is you need to prioritize your work, and you need to visualize it at all times based on user and stakeholder value and release incrementally in sprints. You need to retrospect frequently and act upon the learnings. This is the most single important factor ever in life. And in case of doubt, consult with an Agile coach or Google. So the last thing, super quick, this is actually how a design thinking workshop looks like. It's a bunch of people playing with concepts and having fun. Yes, I have a lot of fun doing this job. I love it. It's actually really structured, time box, and demanding. But you can compress, let's say, 7 days of work in one if you do it really, really good. However, how do you move it to digital? So there are a couple of tools I want to tell you to explore. One is Miro and the other is Mural. They are quite good, both of them. And I would suggest if you want to learn more, so learn more about design thinking. If you already know about design thinking, follow remote design sprints communities online. They are on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and focus on the preparation of the templates before the workshop. So these are the 2 tips and tricks to move from physical to digital. Now, this is more or less how Agile looks like, which is a little bit more with daily touch points and visualization of the features or how we're going to build a product over time. How do you move this to a digital, right? So there are, again, softwares that are quite good for this. Asana is a really good tool for keeping any type of work in a digital format and collaborate online. Jira is more for software development, but they are both quite good. Focus on work planning and try to keep all the communication inside of that tool. So I think that's it. I managed to keep more or less in time. So yeah, I think Senet, that was it from my side.
All right. Thank you, Martin, for this quite interesting talk on this concept of agile and design thinking, and also obviously the change to remote work is, I believe, quite interesting also for our viewers. Definitely for an organization like this, where we are already used to working remotely, it definitely doesn't hurt to see how we can use these kind of concepts and implement them in our own work. I will now be looking at the questions we are receiving. First, actually, you mentioned in the double diamond model of design thinking that the education that you received mostly focused on the last part, on the what part. But I guess that ideally we all understand the full picture. Do you think there are changes in education that could help in getting people to understand this on an earlier stage?
I don't know if there is going to be a change in education, but for sure there's going to be a change in the corporate world. So if the universities, they are not going to teach this, not to mention schools, Um, I think corporates, they are now teaching design thinking. For instance, I know Accenture makes design thinking obligatory to all the 400,000 employees. So, and many corporations are really taking this seriously because it's one of the best skills you can give your workforce.
Yeah, it's good to know that corporations will take care of making sure the employees know this, regardless of the background that they have from their education. It's sort of a good message to receive as someone who will be looking for a job reasonably soon. Yeah. Then let me check for more questions. I would also like to remind the viewers that they're still welcome to do so. Well, actually, you also mentioned that you have experience in BEST, so you know kind of how the student association works on multiple levels. What do you think is sort of the number one thing that we should take away from your thoughts on design thinking or agile work to improve the organization of a student association like BEST?
I think agile is quite best. I would say I think best has some of those principles for sure. But I would say design thinking in the term of spending more time thinking about the problem, because we as engineers they tend to think a lot about solutions, and we even sometimes get frustrated when people come with so many problems. But actually, we should receive that with yeah, with open arms, spending more time on the problem, on the work planning. And this is one of the things that I saw in the engineering competitions that we used to run. That the teams that will spend the most time actually thinking and planning will tend to win, while the teams that they start building, they will fail a lot and a lot and a lot, right? So as an engineer, I have been amazed how design is important, and how to have a design mindset. Uh, it's really beneficial. So it puts both sides of your brain to work, and then it's very powerful.
Yeah, I definitely also something that I myself as well observe. People who really put time in the proper design and properly thinking before they start doing, without falling in the traps of thinking but not acting, tend to be very successful. We received another question on the development cycle that you mentioned. Sort of the question is on the phase of reinvention. What's sort of the idea there? Like, does the product or service keep the same scale, or is it really supposed to be basically looking at a new problem and starting over? Can you elaborate
Of
on that?
course, it depends a lot on each company, of course, but we see that there are many reasons why a company needs to be invented. So first, corporates they like flat things or just a small growth, right? But systems they tend to rotten over time, and this is just how it is. The bigger the system becomes, the more waste it generates. And then basically a CEO will try to keep eliminating waste and trying to increase by some percentage, right? However, we see in the world today, because of radical emerging technology, radical shift on customer behavior. So all the new generations of people, um, macro economics. I mean, there are so many reasons where, yeah, as with COVID, we see that everything is disrupted. So, so if you are not starting to reinvent before you need it, you are too late. So companies they need to start reinventing themselves before they are asked for, and this is really difficult because it goes against maintaining your company. This is the most difficult job of the entire cycle. The most difficult is reinvention. Is definitely by far the most difficult topic.
Yeah, thank you for answering this. Definitely, it seems like the real challenge there is being ahead of the need, in starting to find
Yes.
solutions.
Who do you want to serve? How these people have changed, and how are you going to serve them again with a new value proposition, with a new strategy, right? And you need to tell the rest of the people, we need to change, and people are comfortable. You know, if you look at Ford or Mercedes. I mean, the CEO of Mercedes said that we are 7 years too late since compared to Tesla. We are really, really late. We should have reinvented ourselves when Tesla was born, right? Yeah. But it's very difficult to say, no, I'm going to be something different now.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that basically those listening that are besties will also understand the consequences in our own organization, that these needs for reinvention. I guess every one of us will be at some point bump into these problems. I will ask you one last quick question, and that is really looking forward for the individuals in our audience. What advice would you give to learn and acquire the skills for design thinking? Basically, to quickly imagine that today I want to start doing something. Where can I, or how can I start learning?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So there is two answers. First, you need to experience it. There's only one book that I would say later is a good start, but you need to experience it. So you need to either go to a course or you need to go to a place where you see a design thinking coach practicing, right? And that could be maybe going to a course. There are plenty of courses out there, and it should be physical because it's the energy and how you feel is very important, and how you interact. It changes your life when you see it. The second, there is a really good book that everyone can just buy. It's cheap. It's called Sprint, and it's how to do this process in 5 days. And it's super practical by Jack Knapp. He used to work at Google. So it's a really good book. If anyone wants to start, that's a very good starting point. And then after you read the book, try to find the people in your region that are actually design thinkers. Maybe connect with them on LinkedIn. I say, can I go one day to see one of your sessions? I just want to observe, right? So perhaps that's actually enough to get going.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think we can actually, pretty sure we can keep talking about the topics of design thinking and agile, as you mentioned as well. It's a very extensive topic. We will have to finish this Q&A here.
Thank you very much, Sané.
Thank you very much for being here. I hope that also our viewers, definitely this last very practical advice, they can start implementing that as soon as they want. So thank you, Martin, for being here and sharing your views on these important matters. Towards our viewers, I would like to remind you that our next session will start in a few minutes, which will be an interview with Peggy Poon, the founder of Unemployed. That said, I hope to see you all during further sessions of the Best Virtual Summit, and have a nice day. Goodbye.